For many years, specialists have guessed that future battles will not be fought by people, but by machines. Whole armies of drones, robots, and driverless vehicles will fight wars, while their human controllers stay in relative safety, miles away from the fighting. In Ukraine, we are already seeing a preview of these science fiction-like situations. Up and down the battle lines, Russian attack groups are rushing forward, expecting to meet Ukrainian soldiers standing in their path. But what they find waiting instead is something much worse. Enemies made not from flesh and blood, but cold, hard metal. This is Ukraine's robot army, and it is growing bigger, stronger, and smarter with each passing day. While the idea of military robots feels like something from tomorrow, it is actually a concept that has existed for more than 100 years. Back in 1915, for instance, France built the world's first explosive robot drone models, putting 20 of them into use with the Second French Army. In the 1930s, the USSR began work on the Teletank, a remote-controlled tank carrying its own machine gun. These early examples of uncrewed ground vehicles, UGVs, or armored robots, were used in both the Winter War between the USSR and Finland, and the early parts of the German-Soviet War in 1941. Around the same time, the United Kingdom also built its own radio-guided infantry tank, given the codename Black Prince, and other armed forces throughout history have looked into the idea of making armored military vehicles that can work without any human driver or crew inside. But more often than not, over the years, these projects have turned out too expensive or too complex for countries to continue. Until now, today's technology improvements have made it much more practical for armies to build and use armored robots in large numbers, and Ukraine is showing the way. Back when the war began, UGVs, or ground robotic complexes as they are called in Ukraine, started appearing in small amounts. Many of those first models were brought in from other nations, but Ukraine's top military thinkers soon saw how useful they could be in the fight with Russia, and asked their own teams to create some local models. Jump ahead a few years, and Ukraine now makes almost all of its own UGVs. In fact, a Jamestown study found that 99% of all armored robots used by the Ukrainian military are also built in Ukraine, and production has grown incredibly fast. In 2024, for instance, Ukraine had only a few hundred of these robots available. For 2025, it set a production goal of 15,000. That rose to 20,000 in 2026. And it is not just a matter of numbers, but variety as well. In the early parts of the war, Ukraine had only a small number of different robots to use, each with its own technical details, strengths, weaknesses, and best uses. These days there are more than 200 models made by around 40 different Ukrainian companies. That is extremely valuable, as it gives the Ukrainian military many more choices to use for different missions, situations, and jobs. Some may work better than others at holding strong positions, for example, and we will look at an example of that later, while others are better suited for jobs like checking, exploring, and watching. The larger and more varied this robot army becomes, the more Ukraine will be able to depend on its UGVs to get work done and hold the line in the fight with Russia. That should, in turn, help to reduce the number of unnecessary losses, saving Ukraine's people for other goals or bigger fights still to come. There are 3 reasons why Ukraine's rise of the robots has happened so quickly. First, this country does not waste time when it comes to military creation. It does not have that choice. It is stuck in the middle of a changing, fast-moving conflict, and it needs all the help it can get, as fast as it possibly can. While other countries may be able to spend weeks or months setting up the foundation for their next military advances, followed by years of testing and perfecting their plans, Ukraine needs its defense businesses and workers to deliver results quickly. We have seen this elsewhere. Ukraine's drone makers, for example, often release new models and designs. The country has also sped up the creation of new missiles and air defense systems. Not all of them work as planned, and some could definitely use a bit more time in development. But some have turned out highly successful, and by cutting the red tape that usually slows down and interrupts these kinds of projects, Ukraine has been able to give its armed forces better, stronger weapons as the war has gone on. The second reason can be explained in one word: teamwork. In many armies around the world, there is a clear divide between defense contractors and frontline troops. with contractors having certain ideas that sometimes simply do not match the wishes and needs of real soldiers on the ground. This, in turn, can lead to situations where companies build new weapons, vehicles, or gear which actually slow down troops more than they help them. Ukraine does things differently. It closes the gap between makers and soldiers, encouraging troops to share their thoughts, comments, and suggestions straight with defense companies, letting them know exactly what they require. From there, it is up to the companies to build products that meet those requirements. By including real soldier input in their design choices, they can release weapons and systems that are much more likely to succeed in actual battle conditions, rather than just looking good in showrooms and tech demonstrations. As Maxim Vasilchenko, co-owner and CEO of robotics business Tencor, explains, Xbrain works in wartime research and development mode, with direct feedback from the front lines, no red tape, and a focus on what actually works. Choices that take months elsewhere happen in days here. Also, the government, volunteers, and private sector work closely together, and the end users, soldiers, are involved from the very beginning. Again, this same approach has been seen elsewhere, like in the Ukrainian drone business, where makers are always in contact with groups of soldiers to understand what they need and what upgrades or changes they would like to see on current designs. The third and last reason behind Ukraine's fast-growing robot army is, quite simply, that robots are not actually that hard to build, at least not compared to other kinds of military vehicles. Compared to big tanks and troop carriers, for example, which need to be a certain size to fit crew members and supplies, armored robots tend to have much smaller designs. They do not need crew rooms and driver seats, which saves a lot of space and makes design and building much easier. Indeed, many of Ukraine's military robots are about the same size as shopping carts or golf carts, and they can be easily put together using basic store-bought parts with military weapons, like 7.62mm or 50 caliber machine guns, added on top. Their prices are not too high either. Some of these robots cost as little as $5,000, while others go up into the tens of thousands. Even the most expensive models are nowhere near the 6 or 7-digit amounts needed for tanks and high-end armored infantry vehicles. Through these methods of affordable, smart development, Ukraine is able to gather, grow, and vary its robot forces at a fast pace. Compare that to the United States, and the differences are easy to see. Despite having the largest military budget in the world by far, and an army that greatly exceeds Ukraine or any other nation on Earth, the US has had trouble when it comes to building any kind of serious robot force. Back in the 1980s, it tested a remote-controlled vehicle called the Prowler, which was armed with machine guns. Later that decade, the teleoperated mobile anti-armor platform was also being tried out, able to fire anti-tank missiles without needing a human driver on board. Neither of these projects ended up going anywhere. In more recent times, the US created the Special Weapons Observation Reconnaissance Detection System, SWORDS, armed robots, a few of which were sent to Iraq in 2007, but did not actually fight. The Army stopped funding the SWORDS program soon after that. The US military has still designed and built a range of small robots, along with remote-controlled weapons stations, but has had trouble joining these two ideas to create real uncrewed ground vehicles that can face an enemy in battle. And even one of the newest programs, the US Army's Robotic Combat Vehicle program, was recently cancelled because of high costs, leaving US forces still trying to get robots that are truly ready to fight. Meanwhile, in Ukraine, robots are already fighting, and they are doing a very impressive job of it too. But before we get to that, if this is the kind of understanding you want more of, make sure you are subscribed to The Military Show. We explain it like this every week. Building a robot army is one thing, but actually using it well is a completely different challenge. This is still very new technology after all, and even Ukraine's military does not have much experience working with it. Its soldiers have had to adjust quickly, learning as they go and finding the best ways to make the most of their new metal helpers. But it has not taken them long to get some very strong results. In 2024, we saw the very first video of an armed UGV leading a Ukrainian attack against Russian positions. Up to that point, UGVs had only really been used for suicide attacks or placing mines, but this showed that they could take on extra roles, fighting not just next to human soldiers, but leading the way ahead of them, drawing the enemy's attention and clearing the path for other troops to follow behind. The robot in question was a Loot 2.0 UGV, a 660-pound, 300-kilogram vehicle, fitted with a PKT machine gun that can shoot with excellent accuracy at distances of up to 2,625 feet, 800 meters. Protected by steel armor plates, the Lyut, like other Ukrainian armored robots, is strong enough to survive small gunfire. At one point in the video, we even see it roll right over anti-tank mines, which fail to explode. We also see Russian troops firing what looks like rocket-propelled grenades, RPGs, at the UGV. Yet it keeps working, even after taking several hits and close misses. By the end of the video, Russian soldiers are seen running away from their trenches, fleeing for their lives from a robot that seems almost impossible to stop, like a scene from a science fiction movie. Since then, there have been many other recorded cases of Ukraine's robots pushing back Russian attacks and fighting against the Kremlin's war machine. In July 2025, for example, in a historic world-first achievement, Ukraine's 3rd Brigade managed to take Russian troops prisoner using an attack group made up only of drones and robots. According to a detailed announcement released at the time, the brigade used suicide drones and robotic ground vehicles to destroy a series of Russian bunkers in the Kharkiv area of northeastern Ukraine. Just as another robot was getting ready to take out another damaged Russian fort, the remaining Russian soldiers hiding inside realized they had only two choices: death or giving up. Taking their chances, they came out with their hands raised, at which point they were quickly led away from the battle area by drones and taken into custody by the Ukrainian military. This was a remarkable success. It was the first clear, undeniable proof that armored robots could carry out full missions and reach important goals on their own, with no danger of soldier losses at all. In November of 2025, we got another look at Ukraine's robots in action, when a video was shared showing a UGV shooting at a Russian MTLB troop carrier. According to reports, Ukrainian troops were just testing their robot at the time, not far from the front line, when it came across the Russian vehicle. Grabbing the chance to see what the machine could do in real battle conditions, the UGV team opened fire. The Russians apparently had no idea what hit them. Only a month after that, more video appeared, showing the robot army's defense skills. According to a detailed telegram message from the Ukrainian 3rd Army Corps, a single uncrewed ground robot, droid TW-12.7, was able to hold a defense spot on its own for a surprising 45 days straight. Equipped with a 50 caliber machine gun, the UGV took positions in dangerous, disputed frontline areas, using its weapon to hold back Russian advances, while its operators stayed safely behind the battle lines for 45 days in a row. The ground robotic system of the 3rd Assault Brigade went on battle duty and stopped all enemy tries to break into our area with machine gun fire. Strike unit operators of the NC-13 controlled the DevDroid TW-12.7 robot from a safe shelter. During the mission, the enemy failed to get in or take our position, and the fighters held the lines with 0 losses in people. The robot in question was made by the Ukrainian defense company DevDroid, which is one of the top names in Ukrainian military robotics today, offering a working range of up to 15 miles and advanced radio controls. Combined with AI-assisted automatic navigation systems, the droid TW-12.7 is one of the company's greatest accomplishments and a bright star in the robot army. More recently, in January 2026, another droid 12.7 UGV was caught on camera fighting and removing Russian infantry with the help of its built-in M2 Browning machine gun. This was thought to be the first ever recorded case of a robot directly fighting against enemy troops, and as the video shows, it was not exactly a fair fight. Unbothered by the enemy's small gunfire, the robot was able to simply track, lock on, and pour fire onto the Russian fighters, wiping them out one after another. Later that same month, Ukraine's robots and DevDroid enjoyed one of their biggest wins yet, when a scout attack ground robot managed to take 3 Russian soldiers prisoner during a battle operation. The event reportedly happened in the Lyman direction of the Donetsk region in eastern Ukraine. There, under the command of the 3rd Separate Assault Brigade, a DevDroid droid TW-7.62, which was fitted with a KT-7.62 PKT machine gun, effectively made the 3 Russians raise the white flag. A video of the event was shared online, showing the soldiers coming out of their hiding spot among a section of smoking ruins, holding their arms up in surrender before disarming themselves and lying on the ground. Defroid also wrote a report of exactly how the event happened. Scout Impact NRC droid TW-7.62, based on the platform Numo, captured 3 Russian military. No risk for our fighters. Mission done from far away. The stock has been refilled. What modern battle looks like. Work is on the front line. The people are staying safe. TW Droid 7.62 is a scout attack NRC, which is adjusted to the machine gun Khan 7.62 Edict. Thanks to the built-in aim calculator, the system gives high accuracy and firepower when hitting enemy targets. Droid TW 7.62 is fitted with artificial intelligence parts for automatic finding, catching, and following targets. Events like these are becoming more and more common, and with Ukraine committed to growing its drone army with tens of thousands more units in the months ahead, we will, without doubt, see more and more cases of armored robots defending the front lines, carrying out attacks, taking prisoners, and keeping the Russians back. As a result, the Kremlin's war machine, which is already having trouble making any kind of important progress or gains along the battle lines, will keep struggling as it faces opponents that do not bleed, break, or retreat, even under heavy fire. What's more, Ukraine's robots are only going to get stronger and more powerful from here. Plans are already underway for the newest models to come with stronger, more destructive weapons. Droid, for example, is working hard on a new ground-based robotic battle system fitted with a 30mm cannon, able to work well at distances of up to 3 miles, 5 kilometers. This new model will have much better abilities compared to its earlier versions. It will have a bigger and heavier frame that can handle the kickback of such a heavy cannon, and could be used to give direct fire help during attack moves or protecting infantry groups in high-danger areas. And this is just one example. Many of Ukraine's various other robotics businesses are also working day and night to build robots that are stronger, tougher, and increasingly advanced, ready to carry out a wide range of attack and defense operations on the battlefield, saving lives, removing enemies, and playing a bigger, wider role in the war. As they get stronger and more advanced, Ukraine's robots are setting a standard for other armies around the world to learn from and try to copy. And the country's robotics brands could enjoy huge success, investment, and strong interest once the war ends, as different armies look to buy and use some of those robots themselves. In the meantime, as more of these robots move out onto the front lines of places like Donetsk and Luhansk, Ukraine's military will only get stronger, and its chances of success will only grow. Robots are not the only part of modern fighting that Ukraine has managed to master. Watch this video for a detailed explanation of how the country's forces have perfected the skill of drone warfare. Alternatively, for a wider look at how the war is moving forward, and how other problems, like broken supply chains and falling spirits, are hurting the Kremlin's war machine without Ukraine having to fire a single shot, check out this video instead. And remember to subscribe to our channel if you have not already, for more breaking military news and thoughtful reports on the Russia-Ukraine war and other major conflicts across the world.